or projective geometry. You were saying in Germany, apprentices in traditional trades are exposed to competitions in areas like complex roof systems. But you were saying Australia rarely qualifies for these competitions.
The Australian education system simply does not have this embedded in the education. It's about some tables people can read up in terms of, okay, this is the angle I have to put into my circular saw and how to cut the piece of timber, but they can actually not calculate it themselves. Real carpenter's craftsmanship is being able to calculate all kinds of intricate trigonometry calculations, and Pythagoras, trigonometry, projective geometry, all of those kind of things are not being taught sufficiently in Australia. And by talking to people who acquired a carpenter's certification, it appears to me it's more about attendance and just being present without the need to actually study and demonstrate memorized knowledge. And this is something that doesn't exist in Germany. There's no such thing as a multiple choice test in Germany, where you simply just need to remember in that moment, these three answers sound silly, it must be that one. That's not an exam, that's not demonstrating knowledge and skill. And but this kind of teaching seems to be more common here in Australia. It's not good enough.
Hence the fun fact that Australia has roughly twice as many carpenters as Germany, despite having less than a third of Germany's population.
This is another fun fact. Yeah, it's Germany does have only half as many carpenters as Australia.
And yet, Australia continues to struggle with increasing its housing supply. It's like even when we see roads being built, houses coming up, it takes about a year or two. Just by the time we have to, apply to the council for some permit, and then all sorts of labourers, like what you're saying, bricklayers and all the other, people that's needed, tradespeople that's needed to build a house in Australia, it could easily take up to 2 years. And then not to mention having bank approval, because people have to get a loan. People don't have, we don't have 2 million in cash.
It's very upsetting, yeah. And from what I hear often is that the relationship between architect and client often turns sour because of unmet expectations. And everyone thinks, it will be different with us, and this architect really seems knowledgeable. And then in the end, more often than not, you hear that things didn't turn out as expected and as promised. And that's not that's not good. It's not good enough.
Would you say Germany's success is partly due to its focus on efficiency and its growing prefabrication market, which is becoming a standard commodity of there? And recurring standard designs and catalogue homes, which you mentioned, and consistency drives up productivity and costs down. We should really try to promote that in Australia. Is there an organisation in Australia that promotes that, or do you think it's just literally everybody doing their part, one at a time?
I wish that volume builders who do offer catalogue designs would leverage prefabrication more, and would really speed up the process, speed up the whole innovation process. But it's not enforced well enough. The standards are not enforced well enough in terms of, okay, this is the thermal performance we have to achieve, and then there's you have too much choice. The government should have more interventions and say, okay, this is the desired outcome. Don't care about how you do it, but this is the performance standard, and you cannot compromise that. And then it would become very plausible to utilize prefabrication, because at some point you cannot justify the labor it would take to achieve that performance standard. You would have to leverage prefabrication.
Prefabrication in Germany allows for faster, more precise construction while maintaining high standards of quality. Now, if Australia does not adapt to modern methods, and embrace innovation, it may face an uncomfortable reality. You know, the
Yeah.
risk of houses being manufactured overseas by superior builders and imported into Australia. What do you think is the trend here?
That
Do you
is
think
that is already happening. Companies are already gauging possibilities to acquire prefabricated homes from overseas. They might be designed and modeled and assembled here in Australia, but there are builders who look eagerly into the possibility to get it prefabricated overseas because the workforce here is not equipped to change quick enough and to provide the skill and efficiency needed. And that should be a warning signal
Yes.
that if Australia doesn't adopt more efficient construction processes, then easily it will be outperformed by companies who prefabricate overseas.
You mentioned there's so much to cover. You know, I